Welcome to the Playing Books podcast.
It's great to be diving into this one today.
Absolutely. Today, we're embarking on, well, a profoundly moving and intensely personal journey. We're going through the pages of a book that, it's touched over 5 million lives worldwide.
Easily. And translated into nearly 20 languages. Astonishing reach.
It really is. We're talking, of course, about Anne Frank's The Diary of a Young Girl.
A book that's so much more than just a historical document, isn't it?
Oh, completely. It's this warm, sometimes heart-rending revelation of, well, extreme insight and talent from an adolescent girl.
Just 13 when she starts writing it. Incredible maturity alongside that youthfulness.
Exactly. And our mission in this deep dive today is to really delve into the entries of Anne's diary, specifically focusing on the period from June 1942 up to December 1943.
So the lead up to hiding and the first year and a half, roughly, in the annex, a critical period.
It really is. We'll be trying to extract the most important sort of nuggets of knowledge and insight from this incredible source material.
Giving you, the listener, a kind of shortcut to being well-informed about Anne's extraordinary experience.
Yeah, hopefully helping you discover some surprising facts, maybe gain new perspectives on resilience, humanity.
And just the enduring power of the human spirit, even during one of history's absolute darkest periods.
We'll explore her world, her thoughts, her fears, and that unwavering hope that just shines through. We really want to invite you to connect with her story on a profound level.
It's hard not to, reading her words.
Okay, so let's open these pages and really try to understand the voice within. So where do we start? Our journey really begins on a day that, for any young girl, should be just pure joy, shouldn't it?
Right. Friday, June 12th, 1942. It's Anne Frank's 13th birthday. She's in Amsterdam.
And you can almost picture the scene, can't you? A young girl waking up, just brimming with anticipation.
Yeah, surrounded by those simple, grounding pleasures of being a kid, of adolescence.
She gets a warm welcome from Morgie, her cat.
Which is such a lovely, relatable detail. Immediately anchors her.
And her gifts included books, which tells you something about her right away.
Absolutely. Camera Obscura, Tales and Legends of the Netherlands, Daisy's Mountain Holiday, The Myths of Greece and Rome. You get a sense of this bright, imaginative mind already.
Definitely. And there were treats to share with friends, that kind of thing. And that innocent, hopeful declaration she makes.
Bye-bye, we're going to be great pals.
Yes. It just resonates, doesn't it? Anyone remembering their own youth?
It's just a perfect snapshot of that youthful exuberance. So universally relatable.
But already pregnant with this tragic irony of what was just around the corner.
That initial glimpse into Anne's sort of innocent world is absolutely crucial, though, because it really frames the profound purpose that her diary would come to serve.
How so?
Well, just days later, in her entry on Saturday, June 20, 1942, she says something really quite remarkable for her age.
Okay.
She writes, "I haven't written for a few days because I want, first of all, to think about my diary." She's thinking about the diary itself. Yeah. And she goes on, "It's an odd idea for someone like me to keep a diary, not only because I have never done so before, but because it seems to me that neither I, nor for that matter anyone else, will be interested in the unbosomings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl."
Wow, that level of self-awareness or maybe self-doubt?
Both, perhaps. It wasn't just a statement of fact. It was this really insightful reflection on the perceived insignificance of her own thoughts, her own inner life.
But that feeling is what actually pushed her to write.
Exactly. It was precisely this feeling, this profound longing, that compelled her. She talks about having, many acquaintances, friends at school.
Right.
But she confesses to feeling quite alone in the world. She's yearning for a true friend, a real confidant.
And that's where the diary comes in.
That's where the diary comes in. This yearning leads her to make that pivotal decision to name her diary Kitty.
Ah, Kitty. So it wasn't just my diary.
No. By giving it a name, she transformed it. It wasn't just a journal anymore. It became an actual sort of living friend in her mind.
Like an externalized companion for her innermost thoughts.
Precisely. A psychological refuge she was building, maybe subconsciously, long before she knew just how desperately she would need one.
What layer of meaning does that add, then? Naming it Kitty. It feels like more than just recording events.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's an act of creation, isn't it? Maybe even a kind of subtle rebellion against that loneliness she felt.
Yeah.
Naming it Kitty wasn't just, a cute gesture. It was a profound psychological mechanism. Anne was constructing a relationship.
A safe space.
A totally safe space where she could be utterly honest, completely herself, without any fear of judgment, in an environment where she increasingly felt perhaps misunderstood or unable to share her true self.
Kitty became the listener.
Kitty became the unburdening mirror, yeah. Reflecting her fears, her hopes, her developing identity. This wasn't just about, here's what I did today.
No.
It was about having this silent, unwavering listener, when the real world didn't offer one that felt truly safe or understanding.
Especially for a young girl on the cusp of adolescence, that internal world is already so complex.
Exactly. So creating this imaginary friend was, well, kind of a brilliant coping strategy, a
Yeah.
way to maintain her sense of self and agency.
Even as those external pressures were building.
Right. Those pressures which were rapidly escalating around her.
And those external pressures, as you mentioned, weren't just emotional, were they? They were becoming this grim physical and societal reality. Her seemingly ordinary life as a schoolgirl in Amsterdam was just being completely overshadowed by the looming threat of Nazi persecution.
Yes, she details this escalating dread very clearly in that same entry, June 20th, 1942.
Can you walk us through that historical context? But from Anne's perspective, the way she saw this systematic dismantling of Jewish life happening around her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first, it's important to remember, her family had already experienced displacement. They'd emigrated from Frankfurt on Main in Germany to Holland back in 1933.
Because of the early Nazi laws there.
Precisely. They thought they were safe in Holland. But then came May 1940, the German invasion and occupation of the Netherlands.
And everything changed again?
Everything changed, and the anti-Jewish decrees escalated with terrifying speed and precision.
Yeah.
And lists them. It's chilling how matter-of-fact she is, almost bureaucratic.
What kind of things?
Well, the forced wearing of the yellow star, first off, making Jews instantly identifiable, marking them for discrimination.
Right.
Then the prohibition of bicycles and trams. Think about that, severely limiting their mobility, their freedom of movement.
Just basic getting around.
Basic getting around. Restricted shopping hours, Jews could only shop between 3 and 5 p.m., and only in Jewish shops.
Isolating them further, making daily life harder.
Completely. A strict curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., basically imprisoned in their homes overnight.
Wow.
But perhaps the most insidious part, which Anne really highlights, was the systematic exclusion from public life. Banned from theaters, cinemas, public sports grounds, swimming baths, tennis courts, hockey fields, other sports facilities, basically all forms of public entertainment and recreation. Gone.
Taking away any sense of normalcy or community.
Totally. And Jewish children, including Anne and her sister Margot, had to attend Jewish schools only. Removed from mainstream society, separated from non-Jewish friends.
So these weren't just abstract laws, they were designed layer by layer.
Meticulously designed to strip away every element of Jewish life, freedom, dignity, social connection, pushing them to the absolute margins before, well, attempting to erase them entirely.
It's such a stark, almost dizzying contrast, isn't it? Between Anne's inner-world school friends, books, dreams, and this oppressive, suffocating external reality.
It really is.
You have her talking about school crushes, maybe, and then almost in the same breath, recounting these laws dictating every single aspect of her family's existence. What was the psychological toll of these relentless restrictions on daily life? Based on what Anne recorded, it must have been this constant grinding anxiety.
Oh, the psychological toll was immense. A constant assault on their sense of normalcy, their sense of safety. Anne describes her freedom as strictly limited.
Such an understatement.
It's a deceptively simple phrase, isn't it? But it hides the profound impact. Imagine the constant vigilance, the fear of accidentally breaking a rule you didn't even know existed, maybe?
Or just the daily indignity of being marked by that star.
Yes. And she details how even small, everyday pleasures became symbols of this lost freedom. She mentions how she and her friends would normally grab an ice cream after school, right?
Yeah, typical kid thing to do.
At shops like Delphi or Oasis.
Yeah.
But Jews were no longer allowed. This seemingly minor thing of forbidden ice cream, it wasn't just about the treat.
No, it's symbolic.
It's about the loss of spontaneous joy, the constant reminder of their otherness, the psychological burden of being excluded from the most sort of innocuous parts of public life.
And yet, amidst all this, her resilience just shines through, doesn't it?
It really does. She finds these brief, vital moments of peace. She mentions playing ping pong.
Just a simple game.
A simple game, but for a fleeting moment, it allowed for a brief escape from the anxiety, from the oppressive laws. This act of clinging to simple joys, even under such extreme duress.
It shows her strength.
It shows her incredible capacity to, well, maybe compartmentalize,
Mm.
to seek out these small pockets of normalcy and to maintain a shred of her personal world, even as the wider world was collapsing around her.
That ability to find light in the creeping darkness. That's what makes her voice so powerful.
Absolutely.
It's remarkable how Anne's early focus on school and friendships, even with these laws constantly encroaching, highlights those universal aspects of being a teenager, you know?
Mm-hmm. It really does.
How does that clinging to universal experiences function for her? Is it a form of psychological resistance, maybe? A coping mechanism?
I think it speaks volumes about the indomitable nature of the human spirit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially during those formative years.
Yeah.
Anne's initial entries show this child's natural inclination towards normalcy. She's worried about school grades, friendships,
The
crushes.
usual teenage stuff.
Exactly. And it isn't denial, I don't think. It's a vital coping mechanism.
Okay.
Maintaining these anchors to universal adolescent experiences, that desire for connection, self-discovery, simple pleasure, it serves as this powerful testament that identity isn't easily extinguished.
Right. Even when external circumstances are designed to dehumanize and isolate.
The internal world, especially that of a developing mind like hers, fiercely guards its capacity for growth, hope, connection.
So clinging to normalcy is a kind of resistance.
I'd say it's a form of active psychological resistance.
Yeah.
It's an assertion that despite everything the Nazis are doing, she is still Anne, a girl with dreams and friendships, not just a category defined by their decrees.
And the diary itself becomes part of that.
Oh, absolutely. The diary kitty becomes a symbol of this, an act of creation and self-preservation right in the face of systematic destruction. By creating Kitty, Anne effectively builds an inner world that the Nazis cannot touch,
A space where her individuality can flourish.
even as her physical freedom is just systematically eroded. This early resilience, her determination to simply be herself, it really foreshadows the incredible strength she would need in the years to come.
But those precious, albeit constrained, carefree days came to such an abrupt and terrifying end, didn't they?
They did. We see this dramatic shift in Anne's entry for a Sunday morning, July 5, 1942.
And the catalyst.
It's the announcement of Margot's SS call-up notice, her older sister.
For listeners who might not fully grasp the immediate terror of that, can you explain its dire significance? What did that notice mean?
The SS call-up notice was essentially a death knell. For Jewish people during the Nazi occupation, it was this terrifying summons. Officially, it was for forced labor in the East.
But that was just a euphemism, right?
A chilling euphemism for deportation to concentration camps, and ultimately for so many, extermination. It was a direct official order. If you ignored it, there were immediate reprisals against you or your family. If you obeyed it, you were walking into an almost certain horrific fate.
So unimaginable terror.
Utter terror. Anne herself writes, the whole world had turned upside down. Just like that.
And her father had mentioned hiding before.
Yes. Daddy had apparently been discussing going into hiding for some time. It was this terrifying contingency plan hanging over them. But this notice, Margot's notice, transformed that abstract fear into an imminent, horrifying reality.
And didn't her father say something quite poignant then?
He did. His words of reassurance to his frightened daughter, they now read with such tragic irony. He said, "Don't you worry about it. We shall arrange everything. Make the most of your carefree young life while you can."
Oh.
Little did they know, those carefree days were already irrevocably over.
The urgency must have been absolute. Anne details the frantic preparations for hiding just a few days later, Wednesday, July 8th, 1942.
Yes, the decision was made instantly. They had to go. Now.
What insights do those rushed decisions, what to pack, what to leave behind, offer? What does it tell us about their emotional state as they were literally trained to disappear?
Oh, the details Anne provides are incredibly revealing about their state of mind. Total panic, but also calculated planning. They knew, for instance, that carrying a visible suitcase full of clothes was impossible.
Too suspicious.
Exactly. As she writes, no Jew in our situation would have dreamed of going out with a suitcase full of clothing. This simple logistical point just underscores the terrifying reality of their flight. They had to look like they were just going somewhere ordinary.
Maybe for a short visit.
Right, to avoid arousing any suspicion. So, strategic, inconspicuous packing was paramount. Anne describes bringing just 3 pairs of pants, a skirt, a jacket, a coat, a woolly cap, a scarf.
Essentials only, bare minimum.
Bare minimum, nothing conspicuous. This forced choice, what to take, what to leave, it's a powerful metaphor, isn't it? For the stripping away their entire lives.
Yeah.
And their trusted helpers, Miep Gies and Henk van Santen, played this heroic, incredibly risky role, assisting with the secretive move.
putting their own lives on the line.
Absolutely. And the image Anne paints of Margot packing school books.
School books, really.
School books, yes. Clinging to that idea of education, of a future, but crucially, leaving her bicycle behind.
Ah, the bicycle.
The bicycle symbolizes freedom, movement, the carefree independence of youth. Leaving it behind is such a stark visual, a normal childhood suddenly violently abandoned for an unknown, terrifying future.
Every object left, every hurried decision.
Steeped in the fear of discovery and the desperate hope for survival, it's a snapshot of a family shedding their public identity to become shadows, relying entirely on the kindness and bravery of others just to exist.
This moment of disappearing, of entering this hidden world, it must have been incredibly disorienting. A complete rupture from everything they knew.
Completely. Imagine walking away from your home knowing you might never return, heading towards what?
What details does Anne give us about their arrival, their initial feelings when they got to the secret annex on Thursday, July 9th, 1942?
Well, her initial descriptions are this complex mix. There's awe, relief, but also profound discomfort. She calls it Het Achterhuis, the house behind in Dutch. It's on Prinsengracht in Amsterdam. She describes it as part of an old building overlooking a garden, set back from the street.
So hidden from view.
Hidden from direct view, yes, providing two separate suites within the same apartment space. And her descriptions are remarkably precise, almost architectural. It's like she's trying to create a mental map of her new reality.
Can you walk us through that layout she describes?
Sure. She guides us through the building almost floor by floor. On the ground floor, there's a large warehouse. From the front door of the main house, a back door leads to a staircase. First floor, a large, light, airy main office, a small dark room used as a wardrobe and cupboard, and Mr. Kraler's office. His office has a glass door leading to a passage and a coal store.
So the business premises below.
Exactly. The legitimate business that provides the cover.
Right.
Then, the second floor. A private office, dark, dignified furniture, linoleum, carpets, a radio, a smart lamp. Also, a kitchen with hot water and a gas stove and a WC.
Still part of the regular building, it sounds like.
Yes. Then you get to the third floor. This is where it leads to the secret annex itself. A wooden staircase takes you to a small landing, a storeroom, an attic. And the right-hand door on this landing.
That's the entrance.
That's the concealed entrance to the secret annex, often hidden behind a movable bookcase later on.
Right, the famous bookcase. And inside the annex.
Inside, there are basically two separate suites. The Frank family has their bedroom space, and the Van Dane couple occupies what serves as their kitchen and living room, with a dining area and scullery. Peter Van Dane, their son, gets a corridor and an attic room.
So 8 people would eventually live in this space.
8 people. Anne also notes a little room next door, a study and bedroom for her and Margot, with a wash basin and a small WC. This meticulous detail isn't just informative.
No, it feels like more.
It feels like a testament to how profoundly a confined space can imprint itself on your psyche. It becomes this mental blueprint for survival. This kind of systematic observation could even be seen as a coping mechanism, right? An attempt to exert some intellectual control over an uncontrollable existence.
It's an incredibly precise layout she gives us, almost like the annex is a character in the story itself.
It really is.
And she describes this place, on one hand, as a faithful friend, but also mentions feeling she won't feel just at home. How did this meticulously described yet confined space start shaping the emotional landscape for Anne and the others?
That's the absolute core emotional paradox of the annex, isn't it?
Sanctuary and prison.
Exactly. It was both a sanctuary, offering temporary safety from annihilation, and an inescapable, suffocating prison. On Saturday, July 11th, 1942, just days after they moved in, Anne already articulates this profound internal conflict.
What does she say?
She calls it an ideal hiding place, acknowledging its security is paramount. But she immediately follows with, a mad idea perhaps, but that is how it strikes me.
A mad idea.
Yeah. She admits she doesn't loathe it, preferring it to a peculiar boarding house, which is quite a telling comparison considering the circumstances.
It really highlights the lack of options.
Completely. This tension between overwhelming gratitude for safety and the crushing reality of profound confinement is just constant throughout the diary.
So the annex protects them, but it's also a constant reminder of everything they've lost.
Precisely. The inability to go outside, to feel the sun, to just move freely, these are fundamental human needs, right? Her statement about not feeling truly at home speaks to a deeper psychological truth. Home isn't just 4 walls.
No, it's a feeling, belonging, freedom, safety.
Exactly, emotional security. In the annex, while they were physically relatively secure, they were emotionally and existentially adrift.
And Anne tried to make it feel more like home.
She did. Her efforts to personalize the space are really moving, covering the walls with pictures, postcards, movie star photos, transforming them into what she calls one gigantic picture book.
Trying to make it much more cheerful.
Yes, this act of beautifying and domesticating her small part of the annex speaks to her innate desire for normalcy, for comfort, for a sense of ownership, even in that tiny space.
Even as she knows it's not really home.
Even as she wrestles with the stark reality that this ideal hiding place is fundamentally a place where she can never truly be at home, never truly free. The annex saved their lives, but it also stole their world. And Anne was keenly aware of that trade-off. She recorded it with heartbreaking clarity.
So if the physical confines of the annex were one major challenge, the social dynamics were a whole other beast, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Putting multiple families, multiple individuals with different personalities, habits, fears, under that kind of pressure.
Inescapable pressure.
Inescapable. In such a small space, it was bound to create friction.
Anne details the arrival of the Van Dane family first on July 13th or 14th, 1942, and later, Albert Dussel, the dentist, arrives on November 17th, 1942.
Bringing the total number of people hiding there to 8.
8 people. And she introduces Peter Van Dane, the son, initially as just a shy, gawky youth. You can only imagine the immediate and, well, exponentially growing strain. How did this confined cohabitation immediately start fraying nerves, amplifying individual quirks into major conflicts?
The complexities of living cheek by jowl like that became painfully apparent very quickly. Anne's entries from August and September 1942, just weeks in, reveal this daily struggle with personality clashes. And everything is magnified by the claustrophobia.
Right. No escape.
No escape. The Van Danes, for instance, Mr. Van Dane was Anne's father's business partner, so there was that connection. And they brought valuable news from the outside, which was a lifeline. But Anne quickly describes Mr. Van Dane as unbearable, fatalistic, prone to arguments, especially over food and habits, which, when resources are scarce,
Becomes a huge issue.
becomes a huge issue. And his fatalism under those circumstances could be really draining for everyone's morale, you'd imagine.
And Mrs. Van Dane, how does Anne portray her?
Even more sharply, actually. Anne sees her as frightensome, moody, prone to hypochondria.
Strong words from a 13-year-old.
They are. Anne records frequent blow-ups and constant complaints from Mrs. Van Dane, particularly about her belongings. She'd brought furniture, even in the constant need for sharing in that resource-scarce environment.
That must have been tough.
Anne even notes her red-faced fishwife demeanor during arguments. It's a vivid, unflattering description, but it suggests how profoundly Mrs. Van Dane's behavior, perhaps driven by her own terror and neuroses, impacted the group atmosphere.
And Peter, the shy, gawky youth.
Initially, he's quiet, but he becomes the subject of Anne's keen observation, and later, as we might get into, a source of quite complicated emotions for her as their relationship develops.
So this dynamic shows how heightened emotions, lack of privacy.
And the sheer impossibility of escape can just turn ordinary quirks into major irritants, deeply entrenched conflicts. It reveals the raw edges of human nature under that kind of extreme duress.
Then the addition of Dussel, the dentist, bringing the number to 8, that must have been a huge adjustment, right? Further reducing space, amplifying existing tensions.
Oh, absolutely. Dussel's integration was, let's say, eventful and definitely added to the pressure cooker environment.
What does Anne tell us about him, his character, how he fit in or didn't?
Well, initially, Anne was awfully pleased when he arrived on November 12, 1942. You sense she was hoping for maybe a pleasant new companion, someone different.
That hope didn't last long?
It dissolved pretty quickly as his true nature emerged, at least from Anne's perspective. By November 17th, just days later, she's describing his super practical, exquisite little view of the annex.
What does that mean?
It seems it mainly manifested as an obsession with rules and order. He quickly revealed himself to be, in her words, a stodgy, old-fashioned disciplinarian and a preacher of long, drawn-out sermons on manners, as she records on Monday, December 7, 1942. He was a stickler for routine, for cleanliness, almost to a fault, which in a confined space
Can feel really overbearing.
Exactly. And also notes his selfish and pushing tendencies. She accuses him of taking advantage of others, trying to monopolize the best resources or space.
And he practiced dentistry there.
He did, which is this a surreal detail, isn't it? He arrived with his dental chair and instruments, and even recounts Peter's little comedy during a dental visit on Sunday, December 13th, 1942. Apparently, Dussel struggled with Peter's aversion to his painful methods.
Wow. Trying to maintain normalcy in the most bizarre way.
In a way, yes. But his presence definitely exacerbated tensions, the constant bickering and quarrels over trivial matters. Anne details this on Tuesday, July 13, 1943, like the shared table.
The table.
Yes, Dussel often wanted to use the table for his work, which interfered with others' routines. It led to endless disputes over who had the right to it and when. This constant negotiation of space and personality, where even a simple table becomes a battleground,
It just added another layer of extreme, unavoidable pressure.
forcing them to confront their deepest fears and frustrations, often through these seemingly trivial conflicts.
It sounds like a constant, exhausting negotiation of space and personality. Every small habit magnified into a huge point of contention.
Exactly. No privacy, no escape.
So, what did all this mean for Anne's own personal relationships, especially with her mother and Margot? She's navigating her own turbulent adolescence in this incredibly intense, confined environment. The pressure must have magnified every slight, every misunderstanding.
Oh, undeniably. These unprecedented conditions absolutely exacerbated Anne's profound internal conflicts, particularly with her mother and sister. The annex acted like a crucible for her burgeoning sense of individuality.
How did it affect her relationship with her mother?
There was growing friction, marked by Anne's feeling of being deeply misunderstood. On Saturday, November 7, 1942, she describes Mummy as frightfully irritable and herself as feeling a great injustice in their interactions.
That sounds like more than typical teenage angst.
It feels deeper, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A real yearning for empathetic connection that she felt was absent, and it escalated into these intense emotional outbursts from Anne, like on Saturday, January 30, 1943, when she writes about wanting to scream and just get away from it all, feeling wounds from their constant clashes.
She felt her mother didn't understand her.
She felt her mother didn't understand her longing for independence, or her particular way of seeing the world, which is a common adolescent struggle, of course, but made infinitely more acute by their confinement. And reflects on this back in September 42, noting Mummy's view that Anne has a strange outlook on life. Meanwhile, Anne's struggling internally to be a good example, but feels she keeps failing. It creates this painful cycle of misunderstanding.
And her relationship with Margot, her sister, that sounds complex too.
It was complex. Initially, Anne often compares herself unfavorably to Margot. She sees her older sister as better-looking, well-behaved, nice, back in July 42.
The good sister archetype.
Kind of. Margot was quieter, more compliant, and often received praise that Anne felt she didn't. This clearly bothered Anne.
Did that change?
Well, as the confinement wears on, Anne expresses her frustration more openly. On Monday, September 28, 1942, she contrasts their natures, feeling Margot is praised more, perhaps because she's quieter and more compliant. But Anne's observations also mature over time.
How so?
Later on, Friday, February 5, 1943, she's even speculating on Margot and Peter possibly liking each other. It shows her developing awareness of those subtle romantic or potentially romantic dynamics around her, even in that totally isolated world. This intense scrutiny of others, and importantly of herself, became a crucial part of her development in the annex.
This is truly fascinating. We see Anne's incredibly keen observation and her honest self-assessment, not just of others, but of her own burgeoning identity.
Yes, she turns that sharp eye inward as well.
What stands out most to you about how these intense interpersonal dynamics shape Anne's development, especially as a writer and as a young woman coming into her own? Her diary really becomes a kind of battleground for her identity, doesn't it?
You're absolutely right. The diary was her battleground. And what's truly remarkable is how these pressures, instead of crushing her, seem to force Anne to introspect and develop her critical faculties at this accelerated pace.
She becomes the observer.
She becomes the keen observer, almost an ethnographer of the annex, meticulously documenting the group dynamics. Her writing is clearly an essential tool for processing these complex emotions and, crucially, asserting her own identity.
How does she assert her identity through writing?
Well, take that September 28, 1942 entry again. She labels the adults' quarrels plain barbarism. She perceives Mrs. Van Dane's behavior as stupidity. This isn't just, teenage sass.
Yeah, it feels more considered.
It's a developing moral compass.
Yeah.
It's a young mind grappling with what she sees as irrational, petty, deeply disappointing behavior from people who perhaps should know better. She's forming her own judgments, independent of the adults around her.
And the diary is where she can voice these judgments safely.
Exactly. Crucially, her diary is where she practices her voice and asserts her intellectual autonomy. We see her wrestling with this desire to be heard and understood, not just to listen passively.
Right.
She declares on Tuesday, August 10th, 1943, that she talks more to myself than to the others at mealtimes, which is to be recommended for two reasons. That highlights her growing independence of thought, doesn't it?
Definitely. Relying on her inner world.
She's learning to rely on her inner world, shaping her opinions without the immediate influence or judgment of others in that confined space. This practice of introspection not only hones her writing, but also builds her resilience and self-confidence. She follows that statement by asserting, "I needn't get annoyed about other people's opinions. I don't think my opinions are stupid."
Wow. That's real burgeoning confidence.
Isn't it? An insistence on the validity of her own thoughts, even if she can't always articulate them openly in the annex. The diary, Kitty, becomes a safe space where Anne can be her true self, test her ideas, and develop that powerful, insightful voice that would eventually move millions. It's a profound act of self-creation and intellectual growth under absolutely unimaginable duress.
Now, the secret annex, as much as it was this carefully constructed sanctuary, it was never truly isolated, was it?
No, far from it. The outside world constantly intruded.
The ever-present dangers from outside constantly penetrated its thin walls, making the confinement even more terrifying. We read about several chilling burglar scares.
Yes, the fear of discovery was constant.
Anne recounts a terrible shock on Tuesday, October 20th, 1942. A carpenter was found working on a cupboard on the landing, right near their entrance.
Imagine the panic, instant fear of being discovered.
Then, on Wednesday, March 10th, 1943, a truly shattering incident. Sounds of guns banging, machine gun fire, the adults so frightened they could barely move.
A terrifying reminder of the violence just outside their walls and how vulnerable they were.
And then, on Friday, July 16th, 1943, thieves actually did break into the building below. They stole money, postal orders, checkbooks, and sugar, which was precious.
Yes, a tangible breach of their supposed security.
And this event prompted Anne to reflect, didn't it? On the fear that the secret annex couldn't go without sensations, implying this constant, almost expected sense of danger.
That phrase, sensations, is so telling, isn't it?
How did these external threats constantly shape their daily routines, their internal world, keeping them in this state of hypervigilance?
Well, these burglar scares and noises from outside weren't just isolated incidents. They were profound psychological assaults that kept everyone in a constant state of hypervigilance. 247.
Must have been exhausting.
Utterly. Anne often mentions hearing the chiming of the Westertoren clock during these moments of crisis. You'd think a clock chime might be comforting, steady.
But for them,
For them, it seemed to heighten the tension. The clock's regular chimes became this stark contrast between the relentless march of time outside, where normal life and danger continued, and their own suspended, timeless, hidden existence.
highlighting their fragility.
Exactly. It powerfully illustrates the fragile balance of their hiding place, a secret world constantly on the brink of exposure, where every creak, every distant shout could mean the end.
And the psychological impact.
It's evident in her descriptions, like creeping into Daddy's bed when the fear became overwhelming, even as a teenager. The line between the external threat and their internal terror just blurred completely. It transformed the sanctuary into a place of acute, ongoing anxiety.
So that term, sensations.
It suggests that danger became an almost expected, albeit totally unwelcome, part of their existence. They couldn't relax, ever. Their minds were constantly scanning for threats, interpreting every sound. This living under constant threat profoundly eroded their sense of security.
And it forced them into that strict silence during the day.
Which, of course, further exacerbated all those interpersonal tensions we were just talking about. It's all interconnected.
And beyond the immediate danger of discovery or theft, the war itself was this constant, terrifying backdrop.
Always looming.
How did Anne describe the news filtering in from the outside world? It's the broader conflict that dictated their entire existence. And how did she convey its impact on her?
Anne's diary provides this chilling, personal, chronological record of the war's relentless impact. From October 1942 to July 1943, she relays horrific news.
Such as?
News of Jews being rounded up and sent to Westerbork concentration camp. She describes it with this profound sense of moral outrage, frightful immorality, she calls it. And she observes that it was impossible to escape.
Westerbork, that was the transit camp in the Netherlands, right?
Yes, from which Jews were then deported, mainly to Auschwitz and Sobibor, the extermination camps. So this wasn't abstract news for Anne. This was the fate of their friends, their neighbors, people they knew, their wider community.
It must have felt terrifyingly close.
Absolutely. She also records the news of North Amsterdam being heavily bombed, On Monday, July 19th, 1943.
Hmm.
200 dead and countless wounded, she writes, hearing the dull, droning rumble from her hiding place.
Feeling the war physically.
Yes. She vividly describes a terrific air battle on Tuesday, May 18th, 1943. Watching German and British planes from the attic window, maybe, describing burning machines falling from the sky. These external events weren't distant. They were felt acutely within the annex, creating this constant sense of generalized anxiety and utter helplessness.
Yet, even amidst all that despair, there were glimmers of hope she held on to.
Oh, absolutely. She clings to them. On Thursday, July 29, 1943, she records the joyful news: Mussolini has resigned. The King of Italy has taken over the government. This brings a surge of hope for peace.
That constant oscillation must have been emotionally wrenching.
Totally. Between abject terror and cautious optimism, it profoundly affected her emotional state. Her reflection on Friday, October 29th, 1943, captures this beautifully, devastatingly.
What does she write?
I feel rotten. My nerves often get the better of me. I am so oppressive and sleepy, and it's heavy as lead. The atmosphere is so oppressive. I hear a single bird singing outside, and a deadly close silence hangs everywhere, catching hold of me as if it will drag me deep into an underworld. The stillness and the terrible fear, because there is no way of killing them.
Wow. No way of killing them. The fear itself.
It's a raw, incredibly honest portrayal of a young girl's psyche under unbearable strain, longing for freedom even as she knows it's unreachable, grappling with a fear that feels existential almost, beyond just physical death.
But despite the immense fear, the suffering, the crushing weight of confinement, Anne's diary still contains these incredibly powerful moments of joy, don't they? Personal growth, glimpses of everyday life persisting.
Yes, and these small joys are precisely what make her diary such a powerful testament to humanity and resilience. It's not all darkness.
What are some of those poignant details, the ones that highlight her incredible resilience, her enduring spirit, that ability to find light?
Well, despite everything, life in the annex did continue, and with it, these attempts at normalcy and celebration. We see Peter Van Dan's 16th birthday, Monday, November 9th, 1942,
How did they celebrate?
marked by simple gifts, Monopoly, a razor, which, think about it, were significant acts of generosity and effort in their confined situation. Someone had to procure those things secretly.
Right.
And this personal celebration is juxtaposed in her diary entry with the hopeful news of British landings in North Africa. It's this poignant blend of personal life and global events where world news offered a flicker of hope for their personal survival.
They held on to traditions, too.
They did. The celebration of St. Nicholas Day, or Chanukah, on Monday, December 7, 1942, is another really touching example. Miep and Ellie, their helpers, made secret preparations. There was a surprise package, a wooden candlestick,
Showing the helpers immense bravery and kindness.
and the residents' efforts to maintain traditions, bring cheer, create a sense of belonging, even in the face of forced isolation. A year later, Monday, December 6, 1943, she recounts another St. Nicholas Day this time, with humorous poems written for each other about Santa Claus. It illustrates that enduring human need for celebration, for laughter, even when the external world offered so little to celebrate.
And she records mundane things, too, like being ill.
Yes, she records her personal struggles, like having the flu on Wednesday, December 2010 in 1943. But even then, she maintains her wry observations, noting Dussel playing doctor. Mundane illness becomes profound in confinement, doesn't it? Every health concern carries magnified anxiety.
Definitely. And wasn't there a particularly moving entry about her fountain pen?
Ah, yes. One of the most deeply personal and touching entries is her Ode to My Fountain Pen, written on Thursday, November 11th, 1943.
An ode to a pen.
Yes. She recounts the entire life story of her beloved pen, a gift from her grandmother. And then its accidental destruction. It got swept up with rubbish and burned in the stove. It's cremation, she calls it.
Ugh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. This seemingly small loss becomes this profound symbol of memory, of the arbitrary losses of life in hiding, and crucially, of her identity as a writer. For Anne, this pen was a tool of her self-expression, a tangible connection to her past, to her grandmother. And its loss is mourned with a depth usually reserved for living beings. It's a moment of pure, heartfelt grief for a simple object that represented so much more.
It's just remarkable, isn't it? Anne's incredible ability to find light in the darkness and to express such profound thoughts and reflections even as a young girl. It serves as a kind of beacon.
It really does.
What does this all mean for Anne's enduring message? What can we as listeners today really take from her incredibly mature internal reflections?
I think it speaks to her extraordinary insight and her rapid emotional and intellectual development under that intense duress. Anne's internal reflections reveal a young woman grappling with profound questions: identity, purpose, the nature of human character far beyond her years.
Like her observations on her own growth.
Exactly. Like on Tuesday, August 10th, 1943, when she says, "I talk more to myself than to the others at meal times," which is to be recommended for two reasons. That highlights her growing independence of thought, doesn't it?
Yeah, she's actively cultivating her inner world.
Shaping her opinions without the immediate influence or judgment of others in that intense space. This practice of introspection not only hones her writing, but also builds her resilience, her self-reliance. It transforms her into this keen, moral observer.
And she was self-critical, too.
Very much so. In July 1943, when she's discussing upbringing, she observes her own flaws just as harshly, if not more so, than others. She recognized her own strange outlook on life, the difficulty of being a good example, while simultaneously observing the plain barbarism and stupidity, as she saw it, of the adults around her.
That ability to hold both self-awareness and critical analysis of her environment.
And finding both the negative and the beautiful, sometimes in the same breath, that allows her to articulate a message of hope that just transcends her immediate circumstances. She's not merely recording events. She is processing, understanding, and asserting her moral and intellectual autonomy. That's what makes her voice so enduring.
Her words teach us that even in the most dehumanizing conditions,
The human spirit can resist, it can grow, and it can maintain this profound capacity for observation, reflection, and ultimately for hope.
and the diary clearly shows her grappling with these profound questions: identity, faith, the future. Is there one provocative thought from Anne in these early excerpts up to the end of 1943 that really resonates today, something that sticks with you?
There are so many, but one that always strikes me is from Monday, November 8, 1943. She's looking out from the annex, reflecting on their situation.
What does she say?
She describes herself and the others as separated by darkness, surrounded by danger and darkness that we bump against each moment. It's such a visceral image. Yet, she refuses to succumb entirely. Her desperate yearning, expressed with such poetic intensity, she cries out, "Oh, if only the black circle could recede and open the way for us."
If only the black circle could recede.
It's such a profound articulation of that universal human desire for freedom, for light, in the absolute darkest of times. It's a call for empathy, a plea for understanding, and somehow still an unwavering belief in a future where such oppressive darkness cannot ultimately prevail.
That yearning for the black circle to recede, for the path to open.
It resonates with anyone who's ever felt trapped, hasn't it? Or longed for a better tomorrow. It reminds us of the human spirit's fundamental, unshakable drive for liberation and connection.
So let's try and quickly recap the incredible, almost overwhelming journey we've taken just through these excerpts of Anne Frank's diary, from June 42 to December 43.
It's a lot to take in.
From her innocent birthday wish for a confidant, Kitty, to the crushing weight of persecution descending on Amsterdam.
The sudden flight into hiding. The tight, suffocating confines of the secret annex.
Those tumultuous interpersonal dramas playing out under unbearable pressure.
And the constant, terrifying threat of discovery from the outside world.
Through it all, we've witnessed the birth and the rapid maturation of this truly remarkable voice, a voice that continues to speak so powerfully today.
What's truly fascinating, I think, is how Anne's extreme insight and talent, just as the book's description notes, shine through every single entry. It offers us not just an historical account, which it is, but a deeply, profoundly human one.
Yeah.
Her ability to record not just events, but her evolving thoughts, her feelings, the complex personalities clashing around her. It makes this book an unparalleled document of human experience under duress.
She transforms her personal agonizing experience
Into this universal narrative about the strength of the human spirit. She gives us this incredible window into the inner world of someone who, despite everything, refused to be silenced, refused to surrender her belief in humanity's potential for good, even when witnessing the worst of it.
Her voice, so young, yet so incredibly wise.
It encourages us to look beyond the horrors, doesn't it? And find that enduring capacity for empathy and hope within ourselves.
Which really raises an important question for all of us, doesn't it? For you listening right now. How does Anne's unwavering belief in humanity somehow maintained amidst such darkness and profound suffering? How does that challenge us to look at our own lives, our own perspectives today?
It's a powerful call to introspection, isn't it? And to active empathy.
Definitely. Her words are such a stark, vital reminder of how precious freedom and human connection really are.
We heard Anne describe that desperate search for means of escape, looking down from the annex window at people fighting each other below.
And crying out, "Oh, if only the black circle could recede and open the way for us."
That fervent wish, born from the absolute depths of her confinement, it's such a powerful articulation of hope against all odds. It forces us, I think, to confront the fragility of peace, the critical importance of actively safeguarding compassion, human dignity, and that universal right to live free from fear and oppression.
Her yearning wasn't just for herself and the others in the annex.
No, it feels bigger than that. It's a yearning for all humanity to overcome the forces of darkness that create such situations.
So we challenge you, our listener. Let the ideas and the spirit of Anne Frank's The Diary of a Young Girl enhance your own lives. Think about it. What new insights can you gain about resilience in facing your own challenges, big or small?
Or about practicing empathy in a world that often feels very complex and divided. What about the importance of finding and raising your own voice when you see injustice, or simply to express your own truth?
How can her story inspire you, maybe, to connect more deeply with your own inner world, to truly understand yourself better, or perhaps to speak up for justice in your community, however small that act might seem?
Her courage just to document her truth, day by day, even when her future was completely uncertain, reminds us that every voice matters. That truth, however personal, holds immense power.
And we absolutely encourage you to purchase The Diary of a Young Girl. Read it or reread it. Explore the entirety of Anne's story for yourself.
There's so much more in the full diary, especially her later reflections, as she matures even further.
Diving into her full narrative offers even deeper insights and definitely continues the conversation we've started here today. This book is just a timeless testament to the human spirit.
A reminder that even in the face of unspeakable horror, the human capacity for hope, for love, for profound insight can never truly be extinguished.
Thank you so much for joining us on this powerful journey today. If you've been moved by Anne's story, please follow and subscribe to the Plain Books podcast wherever you get your shows.
And sharing this deep dive with friends and family really helps ensure Anne's voice continues to reach and inspire new generations, which feels incredibly important.
It really does.
And perhaps a final thought to leave you with. Consider Anne's handwritten dedication to Kitty right at the beginning. I hope I shall be able to confide in you completely, and I hope that you will be a great support and comfort to me.
Setting her intention for the diary.
Exactly. If Anne found such comfort and strength in the simple act of writing, in truly confiding in her diary, what might you gain by dedicating time to self-reflection, to truly confiding in your own Kitty, whatever form that takes?
Whether it's a journal or a trusted friend.
Or just a quiet moment of introspection. What insights could you unlock about yourself and the world around you if you created that space for honest reflection?